Good afternoon, and welcome to the League of Women Voters Candidate Forum for Mayoral Runoff Election for the City of Cottonwood. My name is Robin Prudhomme-Bauer, and I'm a member of the League of Women Voters Greater Verde Valley and your moderator for this forum this afternoon. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization. Our mission is to encourage the informed and active participation in government, work to increase understanding of major public policy issues, and influence public policy through education and advocacy. The League of Women Voters is nonpartisan, and we neither support or oppose any candidate or political party. This forum is being videotaped this afternoon by Yavapai Broadcasting Verde Valley TV for showing on cable channel 56 and Sudden Link channel 2 and on YouTube. And we will be posting the YouTube link later on today and in the local media and any way we can get it out. So it will be able to be seen on many different devices. Let me introduce our candidates today. We have Tim Alinsky. Tim is a council member he's left the council, I guess you have, right?
I did resign.
Thank you.
Correct, yeah.
You did have to resign, and is running for mayor, and so is Holly Grigaitis, and Holly they are both residents of Cottonwood. We will begin with opening statements from the candidates. The speaking order was determined earlier, and Tim Alinsky will be our first candidate speaking. They will have 2 minutes to give opening statements, and then we will start with a question and answer period. The candidates have been given questions in advance to look over. I will choose which one we start with. Candidates will have 2 minutes to answer questions and 1 minute follow-up rebuttals. As moderator, if I feel there's a follow-up question, I will ask you that follow-up question. You will have 1 minute to respond each. Our timekeeper, and we do have a timekeeper here who's off screen, is Mary Gassaway, and her role is to keep us on time. She has our wonderful 1 minute, 30-second, and stop sign. So she will raise them and give you an indication where you are with your time limits. So with that, why don't we go ahead and begin, and we'll begin with Tim with your opening statement.
Thank you very much. First off, thanks to the League of Women Voters Greater Verde Valley for hosting this candidate forum. And thanks to all the viewers at home for getting engaged and staying in tune with what's going on with your local mayoral race here in Cottonwood. So, my name is Tim Alinsky. I'm running for Cottonwood Mayor. I've served on council for 10 years, as you indicated, served for 1 year prior to that on the Planning and Zoning Commission. I would just like to give you a little bit of background about myself. I am born and raised here in Cottonwood, or not in Cottonwood, excuse me, here in Arizona. I was raised just north of Payson in a small little community along the East Verde River. My grandfather first came to Arizona by boxcar when he was looking for work during the Depression. And he found work here in Arizona and New Mexico working for the CCC, and he was able to raise his family here in Glendale. So my childhood has been full of the stories of how Arizona used to be, and I think how important policy is, because him working for the CCC certainly gave me the impression that policy is very important, because the CCC really gave my grandfather an opportunity to raise his family here in Arizona. So I've always been very involved in local politics for that reason, because of how important it is. I have 4 priorities I'd like to share with you in serving as mayor of Cottonwood. My first priority is to engage the community. Second priority is to increase the efficiency of your government. My third priority is to prepare Cottonwood for a new economy. And my fourth priority is to preserve and promote our natural and historic resources. As everyone knows, the election is this November 8th. I certainly would appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tim. Holly Grigaitis is our second candidate, and Holly, you have 2 minutes to give us your opening statement.
Yes, Holly Grigaitis is my name. I've lived in the Verde Valley for about 20 years. I've been in Arizona for about 23 years. I moved here when I was 21. I was actually born in Arizona. I was what used to be the Southside Hospital in Mesa, but I was raised mostly in upstate New York. Upstate New York, great schools, but horrible weather and really high taxes. My folks were high school science teachers. I certainly didn't grow up rich. They were penny pinchers and coupon clippers and on-sale shoppers. And in my house, since both my parents worked, as soon as you could open up the washing machine lid, you were doing your own laundry. And also because they were both teachers, all of us wound up getting a paper route when we were 11. Now you had to be 13 to get one, but that didn't seem to bother my parents too much because money was tight. I moved to Arizona because my fiance wanted to attend the forestry program at NAU. After I got out of college, I decided to get a real estate license, and I've been doing that for the last 20 years here. My priorities for Cottonwood are to repair our broken budget, restructure our city departments and commissions, stimulate and support the construction of affordable housing, and restore a voice and choice to Cottonwood's water customers. Those are the things that I feel are the critical issues for Cottonwood in the next 4 years. If you feel the same way, I'd appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Holly. So we'll go right into questions because you've given us a lot of what your priorities are. And that sort of speaks to the first question I want to ask is, what do you see of all these priorities and maybe some other, the biggest challenge that the city of Cottonwood should take it, that's facing the city of Cottonwood, and how would you approach that challenge? And I'll start with Holly, 2 minutes.
Excuse me. I believe the biggest challenge facing the city of Cottonwood is the financial health of our city, as well as our citizens. The economy has improved in the last 5 years, but Cottonwood's poverty rate has actually increased 2% during that same time. The city of Cottonwood has raised its revenue in the last 5 years about 25%. I'm very conservative. I believe that every dollar that a government takes from the people is a dollar that they can't spend on themselves. I know a lot of people talk about trickle-down economics. Well, regardless of your opinion of trickle-down economics, poverty is trickling up in the city of Cottonwood, and that is of great concern to me. I think the way you approach the challenge is you reduce the size and the cost of the government. We need to do a hiring freeze. We need to reduce the number of current managers and departments that we have. We need to think about restructuring some of the salaries and the benefits, especially those at the top end of the scale. We need to look at eliminating some of our service contracts and consultant contracts. We can eliminate debt that the city carries. We have over $2 million just in uncompensated absences. We can eliminate more of our debt by selling excess land and buildings. And those will be my priorities and how I'll look to take care of that challenge of how our budget is doing and how our citizens are doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Tim?
The biggest challenge that I see facing Cottonwood, I agree with Holly on some points. We have challenges in Cottonwood of affordable housing, lack of access to good education, lack of decent jobs here in our community. And I think really the underlying issue that you can pin all of these concerns to is poverty. And I think we are a community that is living in poverty. So if you're living in economic instability, you certainly don't get engaged in politics. And I think that's really why my main priority is to engage the community. It's certainly our duty as council and duty of the mayor to get in touch with the common people in our community, make sure that we're serving them first and foremost. The way I would take on the challenge of poverty in our community is by really marketing and branding our community as one that can attract families and attract jobs to our area. We have to do a better job at promoting education, making sure that those resources are available on this side of the mountain. We have a community college in Clarkdale that's been dwindling over the years. We absolutely have to bring those courses back onto this side of the mountain and encourage our residents to take up education. Education and economic viability are linked. There's 1,000 different studies that prove that, so we absolutely have to take education seriously. And hopefully, through an more educated populace, we can slowly start to bring up that poverty, do away with poverty in our community. Thank you.
Holly, 1 minute to rebut or give some additional thoughts.
Well, the mayor and the council have very little to do with education. The college is basically, there's a college board that runs that, and obviously the college just got rid of the Verde Valley section of that advisory board, which nobody here is very happy about. Both my parents were educators, and one thing that I realize about education is a large part of it comes from yourself. How many books do you read? Do you explore at learning new things? Half of education is what you put into it, and I don't see really how the city council has any involvement in that when we really don't have any involvement in what the schools are doing. To promote Cottonwood to attract families, we've got to have an economy that can support families. So.
Tim.
Certainly, an economy that supports families is an educated group of residents. So, I've been working with the workforce development committee to try to get some jobs, get some people trained, so they can be, marketable to the local employers. It's very important that I think, mayor and council, though, they can't tell a school district, how to spend their funds, or a community college how to spend their funds. We can certainly be leaders in our community and say, this is how we'd like to see it spent, and I believe this is the role of mayor and council. I think we are those, the leaders in our community. So I think if we have those strategic partnerships, that we can make the rest of the population more, at least concerned about the lack of education in our community. If they're concerned about it, then they can ask more questions. They have more questions, and hopefully we'll get more offerings here on this side of the mountain. Thank you.
The two of you talked about poverty. That's an issue. You've talked about more poverty and increasing poverty in here, and then we've talked about the economy, or begun to talk about the economy and maybe affordable housing. You talked in your opening statement about the new economy. Could you explain that, Tim, and maybe what you mean by the new economy, and expand on that? And Holly, it's kind of the same question you is an economy that supports our community, allows our community to have a higher level of standard of living.
What I mean when I say I want to prepare Cottonwood for a new economy is I believe that currently what we've done in the past decade or so is we've branded and marketed Cottonwood as a retirement community. And a retirement community draws a lot of service-oriented jobs. And these are typically low-wage paying jobs. So I don't see a retirement community really moving Cottonwood forward into the future. So my goal as mayor is to try to brand Cottonwood as a community which can attract and sustain families, because families are going to demand education, they're going to bring jobs. This is really what we need to move Cottonwood forward. Certainly we need to have a variety of people living in our area, but between poverty and folks who are retired, all of these people are living on a fixed income essentially. So it's not going to move our economy forward. So when I say I want to prepare Cottonwood for a new economy, it really comes down to marketing. Certainly we have a lot of resources already that we just need to leverage better to market the type of people that can move here and really bring their work with them. And these are entrepreneurs and these are millennials. These are the type of people that we want to draw to our community because, again, they won't come here looking for work. They'll come here and they'll bring their work with them. And if we can get more and more of these people moving here, then larger industry will start to take us seriously. That's the way I think we need to move Cottonwood into the future.
Okay.
Thank you.
Holly.
We have Cottonwood is 4 square miles. We have a very limited amount of land that we can actually develop for any kind of a major industry. One of the biggest problems that I've seen in the last 20 years that I've been living here is when a family that I help move into a home, when their children grow up, those children have to leave to find a decent job. It's not very easy to support a family on an average salary, a household income of $32,700. Some of the things that we're doing, I think we're hampering our own economy to some degree. If you look at what the roundabouts did to traffic in Sedona, what was supposed to help traffic in Sedona has definitely hindered them. Now we are going to put a bunch of roundabouts on Highway 260, which is going to make transportation to and from our area for anybody who wants to manufacture or build something more difficult to get out of the area. And that would basically have the effect of shifting more of those types of operations over to the Camp Verde side of the valley. So while I agree with increasing entrepreneurs, I think one of the things that we need to be doing is just looking at, I'm not going to call it controlled growth or sustainable growth, just growth. The human body, the minute we hit adolescence, we begin to die. When we stop growing, our bodies begin to die. And I think human communities are exactly the same way. If we're not growing, we're dying. We actually lost population last year, not a ton, but 0.1%. It's not a good trend. We need more people here. We need people building small business. We need people building affordable homes. Those are the things that I think are where we need to concentrate for the next 4 years. Beyond that, I think there's some things that we can do in regional cooperation to bring more industry here to the area. So thank you.
Okay. Do you want to respond to that? Because I think this question will be moving on to others, but let's respond more to this.
Yeah, I could respond. I do believe that Camp Verde is better poised in terms of economic growth. They certainly have, I think, over 30 square miles, in their city. The traffic corridor, 260 coming into Cottonwood, certainly nobody likes roundabouts, but roundabouts were, honestly, through regional cooperation, the best option that we had other than a series of traffic lights, which was what the option was otherwise. Certainly not the best, but I think that's why it's even more important that Cottonwood focus on marketing and establishing its niche in greater Arizona, because that's what's really going to move us far into the future economically. I don't think we need to get hung up on traffic corridors as much as making sure that the residents that we have here are residents that are going to move the needle here in Cottonwood economically.
Holly, anything you want to add to this discussion?
No. I can't really think of anything off the top of my head. The physicality of our location is one issue. Where we sit in relation to all the other communities is another issue. And it's not, the economic development is not an easy problem to solve in our area.
That's another discussion we'll have another time, but around that issue, because it is an important issue. But let's continue that around the housing stuff, because both of you talked about housing, affordable housing, and we know that the availability and cost of housing is first lack of real good availability, and the cost of housing is going up dramatically. And it's a growing issue, especially with our current population of people, many of them who are working in the service industry. What do you think, Cottonwood, you can do as mayor and the council in that whole area of promoting affordable housing, or finding ways that there is affordable housing for our current population, even if we start moving into a new economy? And so I'll start with Holly on that one.
I think each community bears its own responsibility for their housing issue. Obviously, Sedona has a much more intense problem with affordable housing than the Cottonwood area does. Being in real estate for the last 20 years, housing is something that's very near and dear to my heart. I find that the regulation and red tape in government for contractors has become overbearing. In fact, the average cost that regulation is adding to a home across America is about $85,000. Now, that's a lot of money, and in our case, it's about half of what the average home would cost. And I often think about what our average salaries are. The rough rule of thumb is you have to take that average household salary, times it by 3, and that's about what the average family can afford. That puts us at a number of about $100,000, okay? The average home, the cheapest home that you can buy in Cottonwood right now is probably about $160. About the cheapest brand new build that you can get is about $180. Right now, today, you can go to Albuquerque, New Mexico, and you can buy a brand new home for about $77,000. It's not going to be beautiful. It's not going to be a mansion, but it'll be comfortable and it'll be home for a young family starting out. We need to restructure our regulations so they encourage affordable housing, let builders put out a product that may not be as the highest quality that we're seeing today, but still perfectly adequate for somebody to raise a family in. And as we look around the Verde Valley, we've got plenty of homes that, 18 years ago, you could buy a home in Rimrock for about $69,000. Today, that same house is going to cost you double that, but the land prices are more or less the same. The difference is the cost of the regulation.
Okay,
thank you.
Tim.
Affordable housing is something we've discussed for years. When I was on planning and zoning, it was a big issue of mine, trying to encourage builders to provide affordable housing. I think that the same message has carried through the years. I'm a builder. Builders build based on the market. They want to obviously make as much money as they can for the homes, for the product that they're offering, and that's how businesses run here in America. I think that the role of the city government, mayor and council, is really to collaborate and work with those builders to have a little give and take. The lowest hanging fruit that we have right now are some of the new developments, the undeveloped land and the development agreements that we have to come up with when those new developers come to town. So we need strong leadership in place that can work with those developers and say it really is going to come down to density. Some areas are going to have to be mixed use, commercial, residential, higher density, and I think that's really the best way that we can get to providing some level of affordable housing here in Cottonwood. But it will be a trade-off, and we have to, as a community, again, sit down at the table and understand the importance of higher density, because higher density is going to provide more affordable housing. It's also going to eliminate the need to stretch out and annex more land and keep building out and further out. I think that's probably the lowest hanging fruit that we have right now, other than some partnerships, again, with Habitat for Humanity and other agencies in the area that are working on the same issue as well. I think if the city were to come to the table as a partner, we might be able to make some headway in affordable housing as well. Thanks.
Holly, I know you want to respond to this.
Well, I don't think you can have it both ways. I mean, one of the things with the 89 and Vine project that council did was to reduce the number of homes. So that gives the builder less units that they can build, which means that the per cost unit has to go up on the rest of the project. One of the biggest ways that we can reduce the cost of construction. You're right in that builders build to the market, but right now builders cannot build to the market here. They cannot build a home for $100,000 due to all the regulation. We had a $6,000 impact fee. That is the cost of a front porch. It's the cost of an AC system. It's the cost of a third bedroom on a house, and that we're charging strictly money to go to the city coffers. Things like engineering now, retaining walls that were never required 10, 20 years ago, even 5 years ago, are now being required. That adds an additional $10,000 to $20,000 to the cost of the house. By restructuring our codes and looking at them a new way, we can reduce those costs.
Okay.
Thank
Tim.
you.
The trade-off, again, in working with developers through a development agreement is that they would get more units because it'd be higher density. They could pack more units into a higher, more dense area. So that's, again, how we get closer to affordable housing. And we don't currently have impact fees. We did have impact fees. And they did go to the city coffers, but the purpose of them was to make sure that we could put in the infrastructure sustainable into the future, but the legislature did do away with those impact fees.
Yes,
so
they did.
now we have development agreements, which is fine. We can again get to the same goal with development agreements, but there are many large developers down in the metro area that favored impact fees. It's just that the legislature abolished them.
Right.
So
There's a lot of issues around affordable housing on both sides. Regulation, I think, in terms of what you said, is an important issue, and every time you put on regulation, there's a cost to it. So I think that's, you've both raised really good issues around that topic. Moving on to sort of a different point, or a broader point, is what do you view the city of Cottonwood's role in the region, and how would you work with the other municipalities and unincorporated areas on issues in common? And affordable housing tends to be one of them, transportation, water, a number of issues are. So starting with that question, Tim.
Cottonwood's role in the region, I think, really is to be a team player. I think, again, getting back to my second priority of increasing government efficiency, I think what we do here in the Verde Valley is that we work in silos, and we don't collaborate well with our neighboring communities, both incorporated or unincorporated communities. Cottonwood really needs to take the charge in leading in a more collaborative effort. I think that we could do so much more with our tax dollars if we all collaborated together. We're just a couple miles away from Clarkdale. There's certainly a lot of shared services and shared contracts that we could piggyback on, one off the other, and certainly save a lot of money. But it takes again, strong leadership to lead that charge. It may not be simple, and certainly would be a lot of bugs we'd have to work out, and communication is definitely the key to that. But it ultimately would benefit the citizens. So I think Cottonwood's role, again, in the region is to be a team player.
Holly.
I've always seen Cottonwood as kind of the commercial center of the Verde Valley. We're kind of the hub where most of the shopping is done, where most of the services are. Pretty much Jerome, Clarkdale, Cornville, they all shop here. Sedona, they provide Cottonwood with jobs. Cottonwood provides Sedona with housing. Camp Verde and Rimrock have a relationship. Rimrock shops in Cottonwood, and Rimrock shops over in Camp Verde, and Rimrock also provides housing for the Sedona area. We need to cooperate better with the surrounding communities and the county. I agree with that 100%. Cottonwood's relationship has been a little bit contentious with some of the neighboring communities, especially over the recent annexations. They were quite contentious when that was going on.
Yes, they were.
So I think one of the first things that we do need to do is repair those relationships and see what it's going to take to fix them. I also believe that Cottonwood, the first duty that we have is to the residents in Cottonwood, in the city limits, first and foremost. That is our job as the elected officials and as the mayor. We are the people who are supposed to oversee the financial health and well-being of our residents in the city of Cottonwood. I also think that we have a very strong duty to treat the people who live in 86326 fairly. A lot of Cottonwood's residents, they live in Cottonwood, that's what their address says, but they can't vote in the elections, and they have no voice or no say. And I think that's a situation that we must remedy in one way or another. So, thank you.
Anything you'd like to add to that in terms of what may be some of the key issues that Cottonwood could take a lead on regionally?
There are many issues we could take a lead on regionally. I think there's a regional water discussion taking place that Cottonwood really isn't at the table for. There's regional there's a wide array of regional issues that Cottonwood needs to come to the table on. Certainly, I agree. Our first and foremost is, we need to focus on the residents of Cottonwood, making sure that they're in good shape. But we're fortunate to be the commercial hub of the Verde Valley, of the Upper Verde Valley. So, that comes with a lot of responsibility, though. Our budget is inflated because of that. We get a lot of sales tax revenue from outside areas, and we could do better with that money, frankly. I think we should be doing a lot better with that money. And because it comes from the region, we should be more proactive in the region through collaboration.
Holly.
Our budget isn't, I wouldn't say our budget is inflated because of the outside communities. I would say it's enhanced by the outside communities. Cottonwood has inflated its own budget. We had, last year we had 31.7 in total income between the city and the water company, but we just passed a budget for 2016 that's $73 million. So Cottonwood is inflating its own budget. Now we do get a vast amount of our revenues from our surrounding resources. Mm-hmm. We do have a responsibility to treat them fairly. And knowing that most people do shop in Cottonwood or most of the surrounding communities also, that will use the services here. And I mean by services, I mean the hospital, I mean doctors, sure. Things like that. We have a responsibility to treat them fairly and be responsible fiscally with how we spend our money within the city, because all of the people outside of Cottonwood are paying probably about half of the revenues that the city takes in. So,
yes, yes to all of it. Regionalism is not an easy thing, but Cottonwood's history is based on being the mercantile hub for the region, and that's long-standing. I don't think it's going to change easily because of the makeup of the area, but there are critical issues that definitely can be worked on a collaborative and regional basis. Families, you talked about us being a community that has been marketed as retirees, but we know that families are moving here. Even some of the kids who grew up here are finding ways to come back home. So what kind of programs or activities would you like to see for families and children in Cottonwood, in addition to those that are happening at the Recreation Center? So Holly, I'll start with you on that.
Quite frankly, the only ones I would like to see are ones that we can actually afford. And I don't feel like we can afford to expand our programs at the Recreation Center. I mean, if we look at the family household income of $32,700, and let's just say that we assume that that household is 3 people, that's about $11,000 per person in spending money for the year. I don't see that we're going to benefit the vast majority of our people by taking more tax money out of them to expand programs that only a handful of them might use. I think it's far more important for us to concentrate on paying down our debt as quickly as possible so we have more money in the future to expand programs. But right now, I don't see that's what we have the capability of doing. Thank you.
Tim?
I would agree with Holly that any more programs that cost the city residents money is going to be a tough pill to swallow. But again, that's why it is important to have partnerships with the different organizations that already offer such services in the community. The Easter egg celebration was on the chopping block, and then a private business came forward and funded it. And of course, it wasn't a huge amount of money, but there are different opportunities like that throughout the community where we could still promote children's activities, promote book fair, wide variety of things. I believe that the business community would come forward because they'd see the value in attracting families and supporting our children. I think there's many different ways that we could do that here in Cottonwood without hitting our budget.
Okay, the budget issue keeps coming back and forth, so I'm not going to go on a rebuttal on that question. So you talked about the budget as your main priority, and you've talked about efficiencies in government and not disagreeing with Holly on some of the budget issues, what would you do to on the budget, to the areas in particular that you would see changes to make it a more efficient run government?
Right now, we're spending probably about 65, and it depends how you want to slice the numbers. If you want to slice the water company revenue and the water company expenses out of the budget altogether, or include them all, we're running at between 65 and 75% of our yearly revenue is spent on city salaries and benefits for the employees. Now, if we look at what our general funding income is we have about $22 million that we can spend, okay, and that's splitting out the water company. $3 million of that is we got grants. Okay, so if we take out those grant monies, because we can't account on those grant monies,
Right,
we're left with about 19 million. Well, and again, when you split out the water company expenses, we're spending about 16.4 of the general fund income just on city salaries. Well, then you have to take out a $727,000 loss for the rec center, a $558,000 operating loss for the bus system, and we're left with very little money left to spend the city. I think obviously the largest part of our expense is salaries and benefits, and that's the part that we need to tame. So, thank you.
Tim?
You know, most cities in Arizona run about 85% for maintenance and operations. So at 65%, Cottonwood is doing a little better than most other cities, but certainly there are so many different ways to increase efficiency in Cottonwood. Certainly agree the management structure needs to be looked at. We have a tremendous resource in volunteers. You know, I think we have a tremendous resource in our commissions. I think a lot of these commissions need to be empowered to do more on behalf of the citizens. I can go through a laundry list of 10 years worth of inefficiencies in the government that I'd like to see changed. I think it really comes down, it starts at the top. And I think that's what that's where we need the biggest changes at the top. So I think, with strong leadership in place, a council that wants to be more involved in the budget. Our budget sessions recently have been, we did our budget last year in 2 days. That's just simply not enough time to go through the entire budget. We need to do a better job at getting our council more engaged in the budget and definitely getting our committee more engaged in the budget and going through items a little bit more line by line than we have in years past. And I think you'd be surprised at how many efficiencies we could glean out of our budget and how much better a job we could do at spending your tax dollars.
Holly, do you want to comment further?
Yes.
For a minute, okay?
Okay. First of all, Tim's incorrect in that, or I'm not sure exactly what he's trying to say, but most cities will wind up spending between something like 25 to 40% on employee costs and the rest on operation and maintenance. We are way, way out of line with what we're spending on the city itself and what we're spending in employee costs. I think that's a massive problem. As far as empowering commissions, personally, I think having so many commissions is part of the problem that we have, because that's one other body that's removed from the commission. So instead of our stakeholders coming directly to the council with their problems or issues to have solved, they go to a commission and then that commission comes back to us. It's a little bit like telephone. Something is getting lost in the translation. We have an airport commission and we have a very large group of very unhappy airport people. We have a building, we were having building meetings and we have a very large populace of very unhappy builders. So I think there's a better way to solve that problem than empowering commissions. Maybe what we need to do is get rid of some of them and skinny it down and bring more of those powers back in-house to the council. So thank you.
Tim?
I think we philosophically disagree. I think that our commissions aren't empowered right now. We don't have a council representative on any of the commissions, and they don't feel empowered to approach the council with the real issues that they're facing. I completely agree. The airport commission has been muted. We certainly need to empower that commission to advise the council on what they see are the main issues facing the airport. I attended the builders committee where there was a group of disgruntled builders. And I encourage them to form a policy advisory group to approach the council as a single voice. I mean, I think we really need to empower these people that they do have a voice. Use your council as a resource. That's why we're there. That's why we were elected, was to represent you. I think the more we empower these committees, commissions, the more people come forward, I think the better your government will serve you.
It's an interesting discussion around budget efficiency and the use of volunteers and our boards and commissions and empowering people. It's something that's talked about all the time. And I know beforehand we were talking about how do you engage people. Well, it's listening and bringing them into the fold and learning how we could do things differently. But leadership, as you said, is a very important point. Is doing that, and we know that, like the city of Sedona does, they have a civic engagement process that they use. What do you think about doing that kind of civic engagement process where it's not necessarily embedding council members in commissions, but it's embedding people who are interested into staff budget discussions and things like that? How would you look at a process like that of what the city of Sedona does? And I'll start with Holly.
I think it's a fabulous idea. I mean, we have so many brilliant people in our community who look at things from an outsider's perspective, and sometimes that's what you need. When you're in the midst of the argument, you can't understand. You don't necessarily know who's right or who's wrong. You're just going to fight your point. Where somebody on the outside knows exactly who's right and who's wrong. One of the problems with our commissions is that the council appoints those people. It's not necessarily a volunteer where anybody can just get up and be on that commission. And when you have appointees, you can't necessarily be sure if that commission has the city's best interests or if it has the citizens' best interests. And I think some of that has happened over the years. I know several people on the airport commission or several of the stakeholders really can't understand why some of the people that were chosen were appointed to that commission. So I think we have many brilliant people here. I think we have many wise people here. I think over the years their wisdom has been largely ignored, and they haven't been part of the process. And that's part of the reason why we have so little participation, is because when people feel like their voice doesn't matter, they just stop trying. I know years and years ago I went to, they were talking about passing a new rental code in Cottonwood. I went to those meetings, and a lot of people who were in the rental community, either in property management or investors, went and vehemently spoke out against doing such a rental code, and the city passed it anyway. So what good did being involved really do us at that point?
Yeah.
So, thank
Tim.
you.
I think the program that Sedona has, I think, is something we should definitely look at. I think we do have a lot of fence mending to do in terms of building trust again in the community. I do believe that a lot of people have stepped forward and been silenced and been muted and haven't felt like they really had a voice with the council. I've been surprised in serving on council for as long as I have, the amount of issues that never really did come before council. And I'm always surprised when people don't use their council as a resource. It just takes a phone call, an email, or a call to the public to come in, and I do, and I will be that leader who does listen. And we may not agree, but I will always listen to anybody, and certainly encourage the council to have a discussion around whatever issues we're facing. Getting back to the airport commission, I was serving, that was my last meeting before I had to resign, was to make a motion to get a group together, an outside group, to look at the hangar lease issue up at the airport, and as a way to once and for all solve some of the issues and the concerns that are going on up there. So this committee of stakeholders and of wise people in our community could be that sort of mediator who would take an outside look at it and solve that issue. Again, I'm trying hard to work with others, glean the best we have from our community, and create policy that's going to move us all forward.
Well, thank you for that discussion, because I think that helps people feel that this is a new time for Cottonwood, no matter who becomes mayor, that there's this openness and willingness to bring others into the discussion of the critical issues facing the community. Currently, Cottonwood hosts several large events, and I know this is something you've talked about, Tim, in the past throughout the year, like Tilted Earth, Thunder Valley Rally, Walking on Main, others. How do you feel about these types of events, and what other types of events, if you think they're important to have, would you like to see held in Cottonwood?
I think the special events, any special event that a city puts on is an excellent way to drive the economy, is an excellent way to showcase what your community has to offer, is an excellent way to encourage your citizens to come out and enjoy, again, your community. It's a celebration, should be a celebration of community. Many communities in Arizona do this. Cottonwood is fairly unique in that we funnel tens of thousands of dollars into these special events, and we lose tens of thousands of dollars on these special events. There must be a return on investment, absolutely. And sometimes that return can be a community return. It doesn't necessarily have to be a monetary return. 4th of July is a good example. We certainly spend a lot of money to have a fireworks display, but we're celebrating our nation's independence here in Cottonwood, so that's a community return. Thunder Valley Rally in particular, that event in 2015 cost every taxpaying citizen in Cottonwood $10 to put that event on. We lost $116,000 on that event. That's a lot of money to lose on an event, and it's difficult to capture the return on that event. We have no way of knowing if there was a return on the event, how much that was. So other communities, Clarkdale's a good one, are putting on these special events where Clarkdale didn't spend a dime on its Verde Valley Wine and Music Festival. They charged a special event permit to put that event on. The business community came forward. They had some sponsorships. They put the event on. It was a great success. Its first year. So, I'm looking for other ways to put on special events in Cottonwood. I did start the Historic Home and Building Tour. It doesn't cost the citizens anything. It makes money. It made money on its first year. We put that money right back into the restoration of the Civic Center. Last year and this year, we're putting the money into a matching grant program to do rehabs on historic homes. So I'm trying to create a model of events that we can do where you bring in the business community, you bring in sponsorships, you charge admission, and you make money and you celebrate your community all at the same time. There's certainly ways that we can do that here in Cottonwood and do a much better job. And we need to focus our efforts, too, on those type of events. I'll get to that later. Thanks.
Holly.
I like a good party just as much as the next person. So I think the events are great, but again, I think the city should not be their largest financial supporter. I think we should be an avid supporter of the events and do whatever we can to accommodate them happening. But at the same time, in the instance of TVR, it's going to be far more important to me to make sure that we have good, safe roads for the bikers to drive on when they're coming and going to our party. Okay, I want to make sure that there's not gigantic cracks that they might fall over. My husband rode a bike for years. Verde River Days. We had Verde River Days for years, and we wound up getting it cut back to the Verde River Day. I think that's quite sad. And also, I know every year our 4th of July is a little bit of a juggle to make sure that we can find the $25,000 it costs to buy the fireworks. And I agree, it's Independence Day. It's something that we should celebrate. And I love the farmers markets. I love the parade. I'd like to see a few more craft bazaars and artist festivals such as that. I think it'd be wonderful. Years ago, I was an ambassador for the Chamber of Commerce, and there was a lot of talk about Prescott was losing the water fight, that they were giving it up. And I thought it would be a fabulous idea to bring that here. We've got space to do it, and it's just so sad that tradition has died in Arizona. But unfortunately, nobody thought it was as good of an idea as I did at the time. So again, I think we should support the events. I don't think we should sponsor them, especially with the way our budget is right now. So thank you.
We have time for one more question, and this is probably an easy one, but not necessarily. And I'll start with Holly on this one. What do you want to be why do you want to be mayor? Okay. And what experience, skills, and talents do you bring to this position?
Whew, okay. I can't honestly say that I ever wanted to be mayor. This was not something that I grew up as a little girl and said, someday I'm going to. I jumped into this race late. I jumped into it in May. And it was basically because I didn't really feel that either candidate really had a firm understanding of how the finances were really working in Cottonwood. And I also didn't feel like they had the skills and the experience to deal with some of the problems and to get our ship righted again. Tim, I liked him. He's a nice guy. There's no doubt about that. But I just didn't feel like he would make the changes that Cottonwood needs to avoid financial calamity, because that's really the road that we are headed down right now. The second part that I've seen that I haven't been happy or comfortable with is the ultimate job of an elected official is to protect our rights. And it's to defend the principles of the Constitution. So if we're busy making rules and regulations, we're not necessarily protecting the free rights of our people. And that, for me, when I watched Cottonwood make the Tobacco 21 decision, was pretty much the night I decided to run, because I can't understand how we can let people vote, how we can let them fight and die for their country, how we can let them buy a house, but now, and have children, get married, but now they can't buy cigarettes. It just seemed to me to be a little odd. And the other part of that is that we gave away $50,000 to $100,000 in estimated revenue from those sales. And obviously we're in no position to be giving away revenue with the way our finances currently are. So, thank you.
Tim, same question to you.
Why do I want to be mayor?
Yes.
I want to be mayor for the same reasons I've wanted to serve Cottonwood for the last 11 years. I have a great passion for our community. I love Cottonwood. I love Arizona. I've got long history here in Arizona, history here in the Verde Valley. I'm raising my family here. I got involved in politics really as a critic of the way government was working because I wanted to see it work better for Cottonwood. So why do I want to be mayor? Because I feel like I've got that set of skills that's necessary right now to lead Cottonwood into a better future. That's why I stepped into the race. Been campaigning for over a year for this mayor's seat, because I think we are at a critical point here in Cottonwood where we need stronger leadership to make those difficult decisions. So I do applaud Holly as well for getting involved. I think that the outcome of the vote, of the primary, it definitely indicated that Cottonwood is ready for change. I do believe that I am that change agent because I've got the history of working with council. I've got the history of working with staff. I've got the history of working with the community. I have moved the needle here in Cottonwood in a positive direction. I do want change, and I've heard it on the campaign trail. People are ready for change. And it takes collaboration. Certainly the mayor cannot, we have to build consensus on council. There has to be collaboration, and collaboration and communication is the key to getting anything done. And I've got the experience, 10 years now, of doing that here in Cottonwood. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, both of you, for discussion. I could sit here and talk with you for hours about a lot of this stuff because it's important to me, too. It's important to our organization that the community gets to hear where you both are coming from on why you want to be mayor. That's important. That's the ultimate question because it's the future next 4 years. Will set a direction for the city. With that, we're going to go to closing statements. 2 minutes on that. And we will begin with Holly Grigaitis.
Okay. Basically, what I would have to say in closing is we have some serious financial issues that we have to rectify. 24% of Cottonwood lives in poverty. The average per capita income is $20,900. Like I said before, household incomes are about $33,000. And for the last 10 years, we have been spending money like we are a much larger, much richer city. Right now, our revenue in 2015 was only $4,000 less than what the city of or $4 million less than what the city of Sedona took in. The city of Sedona residents, the average wage there is about the average household income is about $55,000. So we are putting a much, much, much larger burden on our citizens here, and that's been a great concern to me. That will be my #1 priority. The people who I will work to represent are the average people, the people who are here, you know, making $20,900 a year. The people who moving here like I did when I was 21 that had to work 2 part-time jobs while trying to start a full-time career. That opportunity was here for me. One of the reasons I jumped in is I see that opportunity fading for the generations behind me, and that very much worries me. I'd like to see my daughter, when she grows up, I'd like to see her be able to stay here. I'd like to see her be able to come back after she finishes college. So I've lived here for 20 years. It's my home. I love it. And I hope you'll elect me so I can fix some of our problems. So thank you.
Tim.
Thanks again to the League of Women Voters for hosting this, and again, thanks to the folks watching from home. In closing, I'd like to say that, as I mentioned before, I entered Cottonwood politics as a critic. Those that have followed my political path in Cottonwood have found me to be a steadfast critic of Cottonwood and the policies that we introduce. And I've done so in a positive, respectful manner throughout the years. I'm certainly looking forward to leading Cottonwood into a new future. You know, I did the math. I've attended over 400 council meetings. We've had 400 council meetings since I've served for these 10 years. It's gone by quickly, but you know, I've only missed 5 meetings in that entire time. So I've also started the Historic Preservation Commission, attended a variety of other commission meetings and throughout the years, and really just been very, very involved. And I think that I am that leader that will continue to work hard. I think I've proven it already. I'll continue to work hard. I really want to get more of the community involved, get more of the community engaged. I think my greatest aspiration is to inspire others in our community to get involved in local politics and really create the change that you want to see in our community. I really would appreciate your vote this November 8th. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, both of you, for being here today. And whoever wins the other one, I hope you stay involved, because it takes all of us to be involved to make our community work well. Just in closing, a few comments. If you're new to the state or recently moved here, make sure you register to vote. That's an important thing for us. You can vote at servicearizona.com or go to your county elections office for a voter registration form or the Department of Motor Vehicle. The deadline to register to vote is next Monday, October 10th, for the general election. Early voting for the general election will begin on October 12th, so it's real close. The last day to register to request an early ballot by mail is October 28th, and the last day to vote early in person is November 4th. Election day is November 8th. Polls are open from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. In Yavapai County. If you can vote at any voting center throughout the county, which is really nice. If you live in Coconino County, unfortunately, you must vote at your assigned polling place. But most of all, I really encourage people to vote. Your vote really does count. And again, thank you, candidates, for being here, and for all of you watching this program. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.